Welcome to Political News and Views with your host, Congressman Ed Towns of Brooklyn, New York, representing the 10th Congressional District, programming with your concerns in mind.
Committee will come to order. Who is watching the backs of the American people to preserve and create jobs?
And now, your host, Congressman Ed Towns.
Welcome to News and Views. I'm delighted today to have with us Congressman Danny Davis of Chicago, Illinois, a man who's truly making a difference and doing some great things in this nation. You know, let me just jump right into this. The Julia Carson served with us in the United States Congress from Indiana. And I'll never forget Julia. I mean, Julia was a spirit. I mean, she had a way to say things to you. In other words, Julia could cut your throat, and you wouldn't know she'd cut it until you would move your head. And then you find out she'd cut your whole throat and separated your head from your body. But the point is that what a good person, though. I mean, how she was so committed to her constituents. Now, let's talk about the bill that you put forth in Julia Carson's name. Let's talk about it.
Well, Mr. Chairman, let me just thank you for the opportunity to appear with you and also to communicate to some of the good folks in Brooklyn, New York. I mean, I come from a little small town, Chicago.
The Windy City.
The Windy City. But it's nothing like the Big Apple. It's nothing like New York. But let me just tell you, Julia Carson actually came from Indiana. Probably one of the most unusual members of the Congress. She came from a district that is not a majority African American or black district. As a matter of fact, her district is very diverse. And when Julia got here, of course, being from Indianapolis, we struck up a relationship, as she did with most people. And she did a great deal of work related to problems that African American males in particular face. As a matter of fact, the state of Indiana has had a commission on African American males now for a number of years, actually funded by their state legislature. And so it's something that Julia and the good folks there had been working on. Well, she took up the mantle once she got here. And of course she worked on that issue, and we introduced a bill with her, the Responsible Fatherhood bill that Julia and I introduced in the House. President Barack Obama and Senator Evan Bayh introduced that same bill in the Senate.
That's when Obama was the senator.
That's
before
right.
He became president of the United States.
That
right?
is correct.
Okay.
That is when Senator Obama was in the Senate. And, of course, since that time, Julia moved on to heaven.
Right.
And Barack moved on to the presidency. But we've kept the bill and the work alive. Evan Bayh has reintroduced it. That is, Senator Bayh has reintroduced it in the Senate along with Senator Roland Burris, and I have reintroduced it in the House along with Representative Andre Carson, who is actually Julia Carson's grandson.
Right.
And so Andre was able to run and win the seat that Julia had, and also Representative Arthur Davis is a co-sponsor of that legislation. And what it attempts
Arthur Davis is out of Alabama.
He's from Alabama.
Birmingham, Alabama.
Right. The Black Belt.
Okay, all right.
Well, Alabama
yes.
was, places in
referred
Alabama.
to as the Black Belt, yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and it just happens that TANF has to be reauthorized.
That's temporary assistance for needed families, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
Some folks call it the poverty program, work program for poor people, work program for people who don't have all of the skills and other attributes that some other people have. But I think temporary assistance for needy families is a good title for it because it's designed to assist families in transition. It's not the idea that some of our colleagues and some other folks might try and say that it's welfare for people and that people are going to be on welfare all of their lives and that it creates a culture of welfare where people expect that each succeeding generation is going to be taken care of by the government.
Right.
Well, that's not what this is. This is not that. No, it's to assist people as they cross over, or it is a bridge for them as they fall on hard times, or it is a bridge over troubled waters, just like it's a bridge over a troubled period in one's life where they may have lost their job, they may be unemployed, and they get some help, some assistance. Now, of course, we don't have to look at statistics to say who the individuals are that oftentimes make up the highest numbers when it comes to this type program. African American males, of course, are having a hard time in this country, as are all people.
Why do you think they're having a hard time?
Well, I think there are a lot of reasons. One of the reasons, though, I think, is that many of the jobs that African American males have traditionally had don't exist in this country the same way. I've done a bit of research on this and discovered that most African American males in the early days of the development of the country worked in agricultural production or in work that exists with gathering in the natural resources. That's what they did. Then when the Industrial Revolution came along, they worked on assembly lines. Well, we don't have as many of either anymore. I'm saying we don't have the cotton to pick. I mean, whatever little cotton there is picked by machinery.
Machines, yeah.
We don't have the corn to pull. We don't have the tobacco to gather the same way. And so many of those jobs have been replaced by technology. And so the males who were expecting to be able to work in the same line of work that their grandfathers and fathers had, that doesn't exist. Assembly line production,
Gone.
Certainly out of the Northeast, out of New York, out of Illinois, out of the Midwest. I mean, even automobile production, places where people could stand on an assembly line and put things together. You know, you put your piece in here, and next one come along, you put your piece there. Well, that kind of work just doesn't hardly exist.
Right.
It just isn't there. Many African American males did not keep up with the advance in technology. And some of it has to do with historical factors. You can go all the way back to slavery and what has happened ever since then, but of course we try not to get bogged down with that, but you can't forget it.
Can't forget it.
I mean, there's no way that you can forget the impact of one's history and how that history relates to what's going on with them right now. I mean, and I'm not ashamed of my history. I mean, I don't have a problem knowing that unfortunately some of my ancestors were slaves, but some of them were not.
That's right, yeah.
I mean, I had ancestors who were in Ireland.